Well, hey, good afternoon to you. We are out here fishing out of Lake Jacomo, using a little crankbait here. But more importantly, we are going through the book of Matthew verse by verse because God called me to come out to the water and go through Matthew verse by verse. And when I kind of asked why, mostly what I got was because the church is ignorant to the teachings of Jesus Christ. In many ways, many ways. And a lot of it's just because they really haven't taken the time to fully understand his teachings verse by verse. So here we go. Now we are at that place where we're going through the genealogy of Jesus Christ. And it's we just hit that place where Judah had been really deceived by his daughter-in-law into having sex with her. So then she still is that heir, you know, she's part of that genealogy of Jesus coming from Judah. And it's really kind of a terrible, tragic, gross story. But we're just going to pick it up there. Matthew 1, starting verse 3. Judah begot Perez and Zerah through Tamar, and that's what we just talked about. Perez begot Hezron. All right, now, where it says Judah begot Perez and Zerah from Tamar, they were twins. And it's important that you kind of see what takes place here because, like we talked about, the firstborn has that right. That's the birthright. That is who Jesus is going to pick going through there. So we're just going to go back to there, Genesis 38, starting verse 26. So Judah acknowledged them and said, "She has been more righteous than I, because I did not give her to Shelah, my son." Now he never knew her again. Now it came to pass at the time for giving birth that, behold, twins were born in her womb. And so it was, when she was giving birth, that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took a scarlet thread and bound it on his hand, saying, "This one came out first." Then it happened, as he drew back his hand, that his brother came out unexpectedly, and she said, "How did you break through? This breach be upon you." Therefore his name was called Perez. Afterward his brother came out, who had the scarlet thread on his hand, and his name was called Zerah. All right, this is kind of interesting here, because ultimately what you have is, what you're talking about a birthright. But not any birthright. You're talking about the lineage of Jesus Christ. And I think a lot of times when people read this little story about the scarlet cord, there's a lot going on here. Because really what you have is, whoever is born first is going to be the lineage of Jesus Christ. This isn't up to people, by the way. It's not up to people. You know, when it's determined who the lineage of Jesus Christ is going to be, that's up to God. And he's given it to the firstborn, is who he's given it to. And what took place is, as soon as somebody started to come out, because you have these twins, as soon as somebody started to come out, there was a lot of assumptions made. You know, in all fairness, those are safe assumptions to make, you know, but there's a lot of assumptions being made there. And kind of what you have here is, now you have a maidservant essentially making a decision. Sorry, my little crankbait's caught up. Making a decision about who this is, and she's not really sure. You know, she's like, "Well, I know he came out first because he stuck his arm out, you know, so I'm going to tie this cord to him." And she does, you know, and then now he pulls his hand out. You know, he pulls his hand back in. And then what you have is, you have this moment in time where there's like a breakthrough. There's a breakthrough of a person, essentially. So let's read that again. So it was, when she was giving birth, that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took a scarlet thread and bound it on his hand, saying, "This one came out first." Then it happened, as he drew back his hand, that his brother came out unexpectedly, and she said, "How did you break through? This breach be upon you." Therefore his name was called Perez. afterwards, his brother came out and had a scarlet thread on his hand, and his name was called Zerah. It's really kind of a beautiful story because, you know, it just shows, you know, I would like to say too, you know, like especially for the unborn, you know, it really shows how God is working in the spirit of those in the womb. You know, it's, you know, for Perez to come through like that, definitely was spirit filled, one would argue. This isn't a mistaken story. It's not a, you know, you know, otherwise they just would have said, you know, Judah begot Perez, you know. So, who a person is important to God, just know that for sure. So, well, we're going to stop there on this one. Definitely stick with us. Any thoughts or insight, definitely put that below. I do want to take a moment and say most people watch this channel not subscribe, and click that subscribe button. Greatly increases the algorithm and our ability to get these messages out. That link is below as well. The most important part of this channel is we take prayer requests, and never hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.